I don't know if he coined the phrase, but it's like, and this is the phrase that I choose to use, and I wonder, how do you feel about this? The term African American classical music. I mean, let's put it on the same plateau as a Beethoven, a Tchaikovsky, so on and so forth.
Well, I think that what we're doing is the music of the 20th century. It's the music of the 20th century. That stuff is, I mean, when I was going to school even, and we had to deal with that music of the people you just mentioned, Beethoven and Mozart and Vivaldi and them. That music is dead. It's music of the cemetery.
Right.
Plus, it's imperialistic. This music that we deal with is very democratic. It's collective creativity. The imperialistic element in their music is there's two people who control everything. That's the composer and the conductor. But the composer, it's like this whole king-queen thing. And there you have 100 musicians, 106 musicians, and a 200-voice chorus to play, to do this Handel piece that they have to do every year around Christmas. And they're up there, but this stuff is all imperialistic. It's just the chorus, they're a bunch of serfs. The whole orchestra, that's serfs. These people are like slaves. They just do what the bidding of this one person who has written it, and this conductor who is who's the driver man, so to speak. The driver man with us was in slavery was the guy who used the whip to make sure we worked from sun up to sundown. That's what it is. This music that has come out of us in this country, like when Joe Siegel hires us to work the showcase downstairs, his first question is, "Hey Max, who is with you?" I say, "Well, I got Cecil Bridgewater, Odine Pope, and Tyrone Brown." He said, "Great." Because, and you notice, when he announces the programs, he always adds the names of the people who are involved. Because even though it's my band, I may just introduce an idea, but everybody with me has to be able to take that idea and create and build upon it. And so collectively, we deal with what's happening. John Coltrane's band, John was the focal point, but it couldn't have happened had it not been for Elvin and Jimmy Garrison and McCoy Tyner. It was the perfect thing for them to collectively create that sound that just turned the world around in many ways. Miles, the same thing with John Coltrane and Philly Joe in that crowd. It's always like that with us. So I wish this country would copy and deal with themselves like we have brought this music, but we exemplify democracy. I don't really deal with it because it's always been like that in Africa. It's communalism, like Jomo Kenyatta, his book, Facing Mount Kenya. When the Europeans came there, they asked him, "Well, who tills all this land? How is so well organized? Do you have a town hall, an office of records?" And the Africans explained, "Well, this is the way we are. It's communalism. You know, it's a family that does this. Like it belongs to the world." The Europeans said, "Well, do you have any records that say that this community does this and that and the other?" They said, "We don't need that. It's just natural. You do your job. Each person knows their job, and so we grow things, we harvest things, and we take care of ourselves in this way." And the Europeans came in and started taking records and naming things of their own. You know, when Stanley and Livingston came to saw those great falls. And they came and looked at it. They had syphilis and everything and was sick and died shortly thereafter, traveling around Africa, claiming everything, putting the British flag up there and said, "This is Queen Victoria Falls." That was a joke, but the world went for it. I don't know how they did. Then, of course, after that, they sent their army in to make sure that it was theirs.
Are we giving our culture away? Are we giving ourselves away? Are we giving our beings away?
No. That's impossible. It's impossible. That's impossible. Could never happen. They've been trying with us since 1600s. And we've become more and more and more of the same. Since we came here, 1619 they brought us here. And we're becoming more and more of ourselves. We're aware of what's happening, but nature does that. Mm-hmm. I look at the generation of young people here today, my children, and they are more aware of what's going on than ever. Even though my grandparents, they knew what was going on, but they had a way of dealing with it. They would say things like, it's God's will. If something was really, you know, if it really got rough out there, and the Lord will make a way. And I'm so glad trouble don't last always. You know, these are songs, you know that, don't you? These old wonderful spirituals. They philosophically told us how we should live. We didn't have anything else. We didn't have books to say, now this is how you should do this is how you should do that. We had to kind of create a philosophy so we could survive in this world. You know, and the funny thing, when I go back to looking at the text of the old spirituals or sorrow songs, I know exactly what was happening with us that we don't read in books, textbooks about that whole period of slavery there. Were you there when they crucified my Lord? It was seriously about lynchings and stuff. But we were allowed to deal with this kind of stuff if we dealt with Christianity. Paul Laurence Dunbar wrote a great poem about that, about a preacher who was talking revolutionary talk in the church, because we could congregate in the church, and when the master would come around, the lookout man would say, he'd be talking about, now we got to do this, we got to do that. And as soon as the master would come in earshot, he'd start talking about Jesus. That's the way it was during that time. But Dunbar wrote one of the most magnificent poems that talks about that whole thing. You know, we didn't accept that, just accept it. But they don't talk about Denmark Vesey and the great people in Nat Turner. You know, very few of our young people even know who these names are today, or what they did and why they did it and what happened historically. But we had Malcolm X's and Martin Luther King's from the very beginning.
It sounds like I can possibly figure out what the answer's going to be, but has God been good to you?
Yes, definitely. I'm still here. I've had a chance to enjoy some of the greatest musical minds of this century, be a part of it and witness it and sit on the stages and go into recording studios with them. Duke Ellington and Charlie Parker and Miles Davis, Clifford Brown, you know, Rich, Henry Red Allen, Big Sidney Catlett. Oh yeah, God is good to me, and I'm still alive, and I got 5 healthy young'uns who all have gone through what you're supposed to do out here as far as school is concerned, who think for themselves, who are also got a double-barrel gun because they know that side of their family, and they also know this other side. Those kind of things. Yeah, I'm blessed.
How do you feel, how do you go to sleep at night, sir? I mean, with that term hanging over your head, living legend. Do you know your place in history? Are you acutely aware of it? Well,
you know, people ask us, they say, did Dizzy Gillespie and Charlie Parker and all you folks know that you were going to do something when in the early 40s around New York? Of course, if I'm saying New York, but everybody came from all over the country. They came from Chicago, Detroit, California, Dexter Gordon and Milt Jackson and Gene Ammons and all the people who helped. It's constantly like that. Mm-hmm. But here we were caught up in New York from the South, Thelonious Monk, North Carolina, and Dizzy Gillespie from South Carolina, you know. Well, we got there, but people asked, did you people know that we were going to do something like this? Of course not. You never know, you know, and you shouldn't, because if you accept the term being, those kind of terms, the living legend or being the greatest, then it stops your growth. I don't sleep that much because
going back to the old days.
I'm excited about what's happening, the things that I see. Even though it's tough, it's going to be even worse now with the country going through what it's going through now, because the Western world is in a decline.